We have a full select board here, so I'm going to open the meeting. This is a public forum, but it's also a meeting of the Cohasset Select Board. So tonight's meeting will be conducted on the Zoom platform as well as in person and live streamed on Cohasset 143 TV and Cohasset's Facebook page. The public is invited to participate first in person. We will prioritize you who are here. And to the extent we can, we will look at comments on the Zoom platform. Members of the board and other scheduled participants will be able to participate when called on by the chair. Board members will be able to ask questions of any participant. All votes, which there will be none today, so I won't do that. Members of the public who wish to ask questions are asked to raise their virtual hand on Zoom or in person, and at the discretion of the chair will be called upon. Members of the public must provide their full name and address for the public record. Please note that comments on platforms other than Zoom will not be monitored. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on Cohasset 143 TV. So this is a public forum on the two big proposals that the select board in town is proposing right now for special town meeting and our special election on November 13th and November 18th. And because we are fortunate to have the presence of our chiefs here, we are going to start with the public safety facility proposal. And so, Mr. Schreier, would you mind starting the video, which probably most of you have seen, but here, but we are going to show it again for those from across.
Hello everyone, my name is Chief William Quigley of the Cohasset Police Department. I'm here today to talk to you about the state of the police station. As people may know, the current station we're working out of on Elm Street, 62 Elm Street, was built in 1961, in 61 and 62. By all accounts, it was going to be state-of-the-art, and it was built for the next 50 years. Well, it's made it. It's made it 50 years and then some. HVAC is a huge issue here. The heating, ventilation, the air conditioning system is just, it's outlived its life. We're constantly running from the police station here on Elm Street through the village, which is very, very congested, trying to get up to 3A where the call volume is. And you know, there's more than one occasion that we get caught at the railroad tracks that the town is, we're cut off for probably 60 seconds sometimes. We've maximized what we can use inside the building. We've even taken out garage bays, and now we've moved outside the actual building. We're putting up ancillary structures.
Hi, my name is Sergeant Patrick Reardon, and I am the Treasurer Secretary of the Cohasset Police Union. Well, to start with, one of the main issues that we have that affect the public is our cell block is extremely outdated. We don't have running water in there. It's outside of the toilets. It's old, outdated, and consistently fails state inspection. We're tripping over each other when it comes to writing reports. We're all in the same room. Our break room is also our interview room. It's where we interview witnesses of victims of crimes, witnesses. We hold juveniles. That's where we also have our training area. Oh, 135 King Street would be amazing. The building is perfectly located.
Well, number one, it's the location. It's a perfect location for a police station. It's great visibility. It gives us good accessibility to where our call volume is. Most of our calls are on 3A. So it's good access, there's good visibility, and it just provides better access to all parts of town from 3A.
Hello, my name is John Dockery, and I'm the Fire Chief of the Cohasset Fire Department. Right now, the commuter rail cuts the town in half. So at times, when we're responding from down here at Elm Street to up to the 3A corridor or up to Beechwood, we may be stopped and delayed an additional 30 seconds to 1 minute in waiting for that train to come through their crossings, whether it be at Sawyer Street, Pond Street, Pleasant Street, Beechwood Street, or even Lower King Street. Adding a second station up to 135 King Street would greatly reduce our response times and greatly serve the community.
when there's an emergency and we need to coordinate and have constant communications, a lot of times face-to-face with other department heads, it's best if we're in one of the buildings where the police or fire are responding from. We have easier access to the computer capabilities, easier access to the communications and radios, and it just is, we're like an island out here by ourselves now, and we don't have a backup location for emergency operations. We think that 135 King Street could possibly be that for us.
And I asked the voters of the town of Cohasset to support 135 King Street.
We're asking that the town support a move for us, a move to 135 King Street. 3A is where we should be, and that's going to help us continue being a professional, modern police department. Thank you.
All right, well, so now we will begin. I was remiss in not acknowledging Mr. Pratt, who is the head of our emergency management. We need a bigger uniform for you, Mr. Pratt, so my visibility. But I'm going to hand it over to my vice chair, Mr. Grady, if you want to say a few intro words and then turn it over to our guests and chiefs and director.
I don't think I can top that video, but I'm just going to say the proposal as we've seen is a purchase of 135 King Street. It's a new site, police station, and fire department annex. The site does contain the building, which is already standing, and which will be renovated and sits on a 1.7 acre site. The total projected costs are 10.5 million. We're purchasing the building for 2.4 million, and the site work and analysis 1,000, and engineering and renovation estimates at $8 million all in. The goals, I think the chiefs explained a lot more eloquently than I did, but could or can, but the holding cells, which we've been cited on numerous occasions for, storage, records, space, and the benefits in that are the 3A location improves our response time to Beechwood and other areas west of the rail line, including our schools. And most of the business, most of the, if I'm not mistaken, chiefs, most of the activity that we have now is currently on 3A, am I correct?
Correct.
So sufficient space to move the emergency management team from the basement of Deer Hill, including the need for additional parking. It offers options to provide space for meetings and or training for other town departments. It's a visual presence along our corridor, and which is the most highly trafficked road in Cohasset. And it creates space at Elm Street for retrofits to address the fire department needs. And it's an economical solution. Where we're looking at other towns that have spent Situate alone in 2017, 16.2 million for their building. And Hingham is currently in 2022, 46.7. So we try to keep our eye on the prize and hopefully work with our chiefs to provide the best of services to the town. And for the people that work so hard to keep us safe. Funding. We're looking at a debt exclusion, funding up to 100% of the costs. And potential grants for emergency management space and public safety equipment may be available. And then I'll do is open it up. Chiefs, I'm going to leave it to you.
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. One of the key factors that's driving this project is, well, the timing is, we're lucky to have this opportunity. The opportunity presented itself. That coupled with the citations, violations that the state has issued to the police department for our holding cells and facilities. We have to do something, whether it's designing, somehow engineering a new booking facility in cell block at 62 Elm Street, which I don't think is even possible due to setbacks and things like that. But the state has warned us in no uncertain terms that the cell block that we're running is not up to any type of modern standard. There's porcelain sinks in the booking room, which present a hazard. There's no running water in the cells themselves. We have to let the prisoners out to wash their hands and get a drink. And it creates great risk, not only to the officer, but the prisoner, as well as liability to the town. Again, the state comes and inspects the cell block every year. They do, sometime this month again, and we have at least 3 years of citations from them warning us to fix these deficiencies. But at this point, there's nowhere to go. We just don't have the room in that facility. And again, the building was built in 61 and 62. It was meant for the next 50 years. Again, it's made it 50 years and then some. And it was built and designed for 10 officers and none of the technology that we have nowadays. So we've sort of, coupled things together and made it work, but it's no longer feasible. We can't add any more. Again, we've gone outside the footprint of the actual building. We're putting up outside buildings now, just to house some of our equipment. We have offices doing, attending court via Zoom. A prosecutor is working out of the front seat of the police car in the parking lot. He's, that's his office as far as Zoom goes, because we just don't have anywhere inside the station for them to communicate with the court. But I could go on and on, but if there's any questions or.
Are they fining us with these citations or they're close to it?
They don't really fine us. They write us up.
Yeah.
They notify the Board of Health, they notify the building departments. And basically what they've done is they've set the table for a lawsuit. If someone gets hurt,
Right.
we can have some serious issues.
Yeah.
Sure.
How much additional space are you getting over your existing structure?
I think the existing structure is probably about 8,000 square feet, is that? Yeah, somewhere around there. There's no plans for the building that we're currently in, so we haven't done them now, so well, knows where they are. But the new place is, Michelle could probably help me with this.
The square footage, yeah. 14,000.
Well, so, about double the space, and we would bring emergency management in under that building.
So that building, that current building is usable, it's not gonna be demolished.
662 on it?
No, the one on 3A.
Yeah, that's gonna be retrofitted.
That's a good building.
That's the problem.
Okay. Oh, great.
How old is that building?
135 King is 80s, mid-80s.
Won't you get back to her? None of us can read this one.
I would say probably 82 meters. Sure.
So, what on with the existing building and the facility, would anything be left there? Would it be, or would everything be moving? What would be moving up to the new 135? And what, if anything, will be left down on Elm Street?
All police operations would leave Elm Street. The fire department would remain on Elm Street.
So would there'd be no police presence or anything in Elm Street?
No,
It'll
not
all be moved up to the 3A.
correct.
1985.
Yeah, so I was just trying to, I hadn't read all this yet, so I was just trying to understand how to differentiate what's gonna get to 62 Elm still. And what's gonna go to the 135 Street. So the fire will stay at 62 Elm.
We will still have a presence at 62 Elm Street.
So
Yes.
you're a presence, or does that mean,
Yeah, we still operate out of 62 Elm Street.
so you're still gonna have
apparatus.
the same issue that you referred to, where you're gonna have to cross the train track
Well,
to
we
get to Beechwood or any of that?
well, if we have a station up at 135.
You
We're on the
will.
other, yeah, if we do, then we're on the other side of the tracks. We don't have to worry about getting to Beechwood Street and you waiting for commuter rail at Beechwood Street and the 40 block of Beechwood Street.
So you're basically talking about two stations that will have both fire and police?
No, so the police operations would go to 135 King, but we'd bring, let's say the ambulance would have a house at 135 King. So there's always a fire presence on King Street on 3A. But the ladder truck and engine would stay at Elm Street.
There's only one ambulance, right? We're gonna put-
We have two ambulances, one that's continuously deployed. This would allow us to move our second ambulance, which is stored by the town hall, under our own roof. And then we could use staffing to use that to deploy that with our current
And-
staff.
But
I
at
know-
the same time, we're gonna have.
No, we have, Howard Call would come in, the first ambulance would go out and handle it. If there was another call and we had proper staff, we had staffing,
Okay, that's what.
then we would use that second ambulance now.
And I'm sorry to interject. The first time you talk, if you could just introduce yourself, name and address for the record, for the minutes, that would be appreciated. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt the question. Miss,
Leonore Jenkins, Jerusalem Road. Are you gonna be putting up any type of garage for the ambulance?
On King Street, there'd be, yeah.
We have to, under regulations, we have to have the vehicle in a climate controlled facility. OEMS regulations,
Will
so
it be attached or a separate building?
we don't know yet, we don't have design yet.
but that is a part of the projected cost. So if we buy the property for 2.4 million, we're looking at an estimate of the construction cost to, for example, put in the new jail cells, put in the bays, put in an elevator, put in a vestibule, which we all know the police need after, the chainsaw incident. So, that is all included within the 6 million with a contingency of 2 million, which is a pretty significant contingency and soft cost, but probably necessary in the instance of public safety construction.
And Chief, would you explain the Sally Port, which we currently don't have,
Sure.
which is included in the cost as well?
A Sally Port is, basically, it's an attachment to the station. It's more or less a garage bay. The cruiser would pull in, door would close. And you'd unload the prisoner, from within that Sally Port. Sally Port is it's a sterile environment, as far as there's nothing that can be used as a weapon there. It has direct access into the booking room and cell block. It's something we don't have right now. If we have a prisoner, we've had to take out garage bays. We used to have three garage bays at 62 Elm Street. We've had to take out one of them to make it an evidence room. And the other one houses equipment. In the third bay that we have houses a UTV that we use to respond into the trails that get at Wampatuck State Park. So it's a frontline response team that has to be garaged. So the Sally Port at 135 King Street would be a true Sally Port for prisoners that leads right into booking. And it's just a lot safer for everybody. It is the standard now.
And Chief, I have one more question to you, Dockery. Could you explain too, what we talked about earlier is your time. What's it take to get from Elm to the backside of Beechwood or John Street compared to what we may be able to do with this new building?
So yeah, our response times to Beechwood, West Corner, the whole North Cohasset, 3A corridor is about 8 minutes or so. We had a fire back in January, 700 block of Jerusalem Road, took us 9 minutes. And it was a day just like this in January. It took us 9 minutes Elm Street to arrive on scene. If we were up in that area, we could take 2 to 3 minutes of response time off getting to those areas of town. 3A corridor is probably 50% of where our call volume is. We have 2 supermarkets, we have assisted living, we have a detox facility. We're going to car accidents up in that area. So our response times would be reduced if we had apparatus and personnel up in that area.
Miss,
Starting 100 Pine Street. I'm still not clear. You're gonna have fire trucks in both locations,
Correct.
so whichever is the most accessible, you'll go out from that location.
Correct. We'll have staffing in both spots,
Okay,
all right, and we'll respond per what the call type is.
okay. And I asked you the question before the meeting about whether or not, and this would apply to police as well. You've approached the state about putting in a stoplight there so that you can come out and make a turn, especially a left turn, heading towards the assisted living or any of that. Coming along traffic on 3A is a killer at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Correct.
literally.
Is that part of the design?
Would probably, we have a, it's called an opticom, the police cars and the fire trucks have these. And we could put up a light that is just triggered by that, so if you go through like 3 in Beechwood, you'll see there's like a white strobe light at the top of the arm on one of those, on most traffic lights or at the T lot. Coming out of 3A. When that flash pattern from our lights, either the fire lights or the police lights, hits there's an eye, there's a sensor. That white strobe light on top of the traffic light will go off. That tells the police officer and firefighter that we've captured the intersection, and it gives us a green light. It turns everybody's red, but ours is green. So those are relatively inexpensive. That's probably what we use. up
There's
there.
no light there now. So
No, there's not, but it would be a light just for emergency vehicles entering.
Willow Jenkins, Jerusalem Road. Manning, that's what I'm getting at. If you're gonna have an ambulance and a pumper up at this location, is that 3 men?
Usually 2 men, depending on what the call type would be. They either take the ambulance or they take the engine. And then the additional apparatus will be responding from Elm Street. With whatever piece, depending on the type of the call. So that's how
We have 5 men on max, right? That's what we have right now.
we, between 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
4 to 6. And we do a lot of callback, and we have members come back off duty to supplement the on duty.
Mr. Hughes.
In the back
Yes,
there?
yeah, Mr. Hughes.
Paul here. So I just had a question about the facility itself, because you had mentioned everything was included in the 6 million.
It's included in the total pen, which is 2.4 purchase price, 6 million construction estimate, plus 2 million contingency, so.
2.5 million for the building.
Yeah.
And then another 4 for the building or 6.
Six.
Six. Okay.
Yeah.
And then another 2 on top of that for contingency. So how many bays, because it's a light manufacturing facility, CV engineering that used to be there. So how many bays now are you looking to convert onto that building to 3 or 4?
For the police, it would only be a single sally port.
And so for fire,
Fire would be 2.
2. Where are you gonna house all the rest of the ATVs that you're housing in there now?
So they're talking about, again, we're still working through the design, but if anybody has seen Norwell PD, they have almost like a lean-to in their station, so it's not a full structure, but it is a covering. Like almost like a carport, but longer, and possibly, solar panels on top of it. There's all kinds of different designs out there, but it'd be more a lean-to as opposed to, someone we can plug some of the equipment in.
Agnes McCann, 104 Dome Street. I don't doubt the need for it, but I just need to know what's hazardous about a porcelain sink.
It can break, number one, and it's sharp, it's glass.
So,
And if you hit it, with anything, a pair of cuffs, you can break that porcelain very easily.
somebody could do that actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've actually had it happen to one of the toilets in the cells. And then it was so dangerous, we replaced all the toilets with stainless steel ones, but there's still running water on
Thank
those
you.
cells.
Are there any questions on Zoom?
No, I'm not having it at the moment.
Does anybody have any further?
Glenn, would you like to say a few words about?
Yes, with Glenn Pratt, Emergency Management. We in emergency management are all about redundancy and incident response and coordinating all the different departments. Right now, we are a great backup for public safety, but we have no backup for emergency management operations center. So our little space in the basement of Diego School has no way to go. It's offline for some reason. We also, by being there, even though we have radio communications, it's difficult to get onto the police and fire secure internet computer capabilities, which during an emergency need to be available to every department in one place. So being in the same place with police and fire is where we belong, and it would also give us our backup emergency operations center, because we could keep some of the setup still at Deer Hill. We have been working over the last couple of years, trying to get grants from FEMA and MEMA, which are plenty now, and we work on them all the time. Twice put in a recommendation for a generator for this public safety building that we're moving out of, so we are always thinking about upgrading. We have a lot of equipment that is orphaned right now. It's stored, some of it's at the shelter behind the police station, some of it's at the shelter in the DPW, some of it's in the water department garage, and much of it is in the basement at the Eagle School. So we just need to coordinate and get in one place. It'll make it a lot more effective for us to support the incident, which is our main goal. So we would be delighted to be part of this.
Kevin McCarthy, 155 Fair Oaks Lane. So would this take all of emergency services to the town of the schools where it's now in the basement of school and put it into one location? Because I know that's been an issue.
Yeah, well, I think that the basement would become our backup location. Some of ours, we have a very large cache of supplies now that were acquired during the COVID years, which will be used eventually. And we have a lot of equipment that probably would just stay there because it's a dormant location. We can go get it when we need it. When we're likely to need it, school wouldn't be in session, so it wouldn't be an issue. But right now, our normal operation, we have training, we have drills, we have activity going on under that school almost every week for something. So the situation, we're not really compatible tenant for the building. You know, there's no way if we're having a meeting or a training, there's no way to easily use bathroom facilities. We have to always be in coordination with the office and visitors passes. And so it's a difficult situation, but it's served us as we've built it out over the last 15 years. Much of it with federal and state grants.
So that would take all of that activity out of the school and up to the public safety building. Is that correct?
Correct.
And just as an observation, having been at meetings in the emergency operations center in the basement of the Deer Hill. Inevitably, someone has to go upstairs for, to make a phone call or use a bathroom or something. It really does disrupt the school, to see uniformed people, walking through the cars with such young kids. And, if we have to have a press conference or things like that, we've had to do them at that emergency operations center. And again, that's disruptive as well, to the learning.
Another thing too is that over the last, I would say 10 years, emergency management has become a frontline department in many communities and states. It was just a PR term many years ago. Now it's a real thing, and there are lots of state involvement. And so we would be better to be out of that basement and be in a real building.
All right. Are there any comments or questions, my fellow select board members? Before we move on to town hall? Any last questions from the audience? From the virtual world? No? Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we're going to move on to the town hall proposal. If you don't mind just showing a quick visual, Justin.
My name is Jean Healy Dippold, and I'm the chair of the Cohasset Select Board.
Make sure my friend is on here.
Hi, my name is Jean Healy Dippold, and I am the chair of the Cohasset Select Board. With me is Mr. Chris Senior, who is Cohasset's town manager. We are in front of 1 Pleasant Street, which is a brand new building that's being built right now. It is across the street from what used to be JJ's Junction and right behind the South Shore Art Center across the tracks in the village. This building here has 8,000 square feet on the first floor that we propose to use for all of our town administrative services, and above it, it has 2 floors containing 14 units. We propose to use those units for affordable housing and rent them out, and we will keep one of the units for a staff break room.
Hello, Cohasset. My name is Paul Grady, Vice Chair of the Cohasset Select Board, and today I'm standing in front of 1 Pleasant Street, which in November we are going to ask for your vote in turning this building into our new town hall. The Cohasset Select Board is asking for your support and your yes vote in November. The reason for these are simple. We are bringing in a town hall that we hope is sustainable for the near future, the long future, and the long term, while also offering 13 affordable units on the 2nd floor for the people that need the most. This building is designed and fully built out, will take care of the needs of our residents and our citizens, for we hope well into the future and will at some point in time become the historical town hall, while we preserve the town hall currently in the common.
Hi, my name is Ellen Marr, and I'm the clerk on the Cohasset Select Board. I'd like to share with you my thoughts on our proposal for 1 Pleasant Street to be the new town hall. We've had multiple projects in the last several years, and the overwhelming commonalities was the fact that the citizens of the town want a town hall in the village. This building provides us that opportunity to house our town staff, our seat of government, in a professional, efficient workspace.
Hi, this is Chris Plex from the Cohasset Select Board. We got a lot of good feedback in our last town meeting about how important it was to people that our new town hall proposal be cost effective, and we heard that loud and clear. So we have a new town hall proposal that comes in at less than half the cost of the previous proposal and with more resources. I hope you come out to one of our meetings to learn more about it and ask questions. We're here to help you understand if this is right for Cohasset.
Hi, I'm Jack Creighton. I'm a member of your select board. I'm here because I want to speak to all of my fellow taxpayers and residents about our new town hall plans. The reason we like this is, number one, the price is very attractive. We also get the affordable units on top of that. And most importantly, we keep a town hall conveniently located in the village. We're acquiring a substantial number of new parking spaces, so parking will not be an issue. All of the facilities are reachable on the 1st floor, so when you go down to your town hall, you'll be able to walk in the door and do your business. And we really look for your support, but more importantly, we want you to know that we are conscious of the tax load, we are conscious of the needs, and we are moving forward in a very positive manner for Cohasset to give you the town hall and facilities that are consistent with the high quality of Cohasset, which is a town that we all love. And thank you for your support.
Well, you've heard from the select board in terms of 1 Pleasant. Just to add a few more pieces of information for those interested, the total square footage of the building is 24,000 square feet. The bottom floor is 8,000 square feet, where we propose to locate our town hall. That is slightly more than our existing town hall offices and services right now in the existing town hall building. Also, as Mr. Creighton alluded to, there are 30 new parking spots that will be that are contained within the purchase price that will be paved once the construction is done. And there's also an existing town hall public parking lot right next to it. So if you saw the parking lot that had cars in it, that's an existing public parking lot with 30 spots as well. So we'll have 60 in total, all in front of 1 Pleasant Street in terms of public parking. Given the existing lot, then combined with the new parking. And just to be clear, the purchase price of 1 Pleasant Street, which is 9.1 million, the Cohasset Select Board just signed a P&S for that, contains essentially 100% build out plus all the parking already all done. So everything is move-in ready with the limited exception of the vault that we need for our town, our specific town services. And we learned today that we actually can repurpose the vault doors from our old town hall into the new town hall. And so we hope and expect that it's not going to be that expensive. We also have soft costs for moving and for equipping the town hall with office equipment. And so the ultimate cost, we're conservatively estimating at 10 million, but that's how the numbers break down. 9.1 million plus some additional expenses for the vault and the moving costs and soft costs there. And so it will hopefully be likely under 10 million, but again, just trying to be conservative about.
So I can talk briefly about what we have, and show you stuff about what we will have. I think anyone's been in the current town hall, well, it's mostly certainly historic. It is not particularly well laid out. There's very little we can done with it. When you come in, I'm more often than not directing someone to find something because there's no logical flow to anything in that building. Even if you've been in there before, it's not well designed for the public. It's not well designed for use as office space. It's the building was renovated back in the 20s. The upstairs was locked in the historic buildings, can't really move anything around. And the annex wasn't built with, with long-term thought thinking either. I at least not beyond when it's built. And it's not flexible. So anyone's been in the office, their house is the select board and town manager, it's not very functional. We have people like out in the open, and Michelle said what used to be a closet that we converted. I do look at the comments. I have to say that is one pretty thing, but other than that, it's not particularly great. And it's not good to work in, right? So that's one of the challenges. It's too hot, it's too cold, sometimes it's both at the same time. And the systems in the building are at the end of their life or beyond the end. Roofs, windows. Just after town meeting, the AC failed. It's not repairable. The facility's done a masterful job of keeping it going when the AC condensers are gone, so that the annex no longer has air conditioning. That's why there's window units that have popped up in that building. The storage structure never had it. What happens there is that air conditioning units typically will set the breakers off, and those are old glass fuses. I'm not quite sure we get them. I don't think we get eBay or where we get them from, but it's pre-World War II wiring, so it's not the most modern system. It's expensive to fix. I don't think there's any doubt about that from the three plans I've seen in my time here. The last one, topping charts at over $25 million. So because of all the public requirements for bidding, prevailing wage, doing work really has become super expensive in a way that there's nothing we can do. So that's what we're faced with today. And then let me have Michelle talk about what we're looking to do.
Sure. So after annual town meeting in May, we heard the citizens, we heard the community. Stop giving us the same proposal for the same old thing. So what we did is we started looking at different options for temporary space because we've seen several failures in town hall. And One Pleasant presented itself. And it's great for many reasons. So the first floor is 8,000 square feet of space, of office space. It's ADA compliant. It's already built out for our needs with the exception of the vault. It does afford the community 13 affordable housing units. Those units will be managed by a property management company. The town will not be managing those units. We are in contact with the Norwell Housing, who runs our housing authority here. We're also in touch with other property management companies that manage properties in Cohasset, such as the TOD district and 390 CJC. So they already have units in Cohasset. They're looking to increase their portfolio. And they're open to the idea of managing these for us. We are going to retain one of the units for town hall as a break room. There's also an overflow space up there for additional meeting space if needed. It's a great property. It's walkable. The additional parking spots is great for downtown. We're constantly hearing how there's not enough parking. So by town hall moving from our existing location, it'll free up that parking lot as well for activities on the common. And so we're open to any questions. I'm happy to answer anything for you.
And so the last piece that we wanted to talk about, and I definitely welcome my fellow select board members to weigh in here too, is we've gotten a lot of questions about existing town hall and what's the plan there. And so on that front, we have talked about a long-term repair process in terms of probably focusing on the historic building, the auditorium, which I think most of the town, at least from what I've heard, is all in consensus about wanting to save and preserve that. The question then becomes, do we do that with the annex, or do we tear it down and just have a standalone historic building and then have just more parking for the churches and for the common in that area? So that's something that we have talked about, but until we do such a move like that, we want to see what happens with One Pleasant. Obviously, if One Pleasant fails, we can't tear down the annex or have serious discussions about that. So we are talking about really trying to focus on historic preservation of the auditorium, including through CPC grants, because the auditorium section is all eligible for CPC because it's a historic building, as well as Mass Historic Preservation grants. So it's going to take some time. And the Long-Term Finance Committee, of which I'm a member, and so is the chair of Capital Schools and Advisory, we've been discussing this, and our recommendation is not to seek a tax increase in the future, but we believe that instead we should be doing a long-term repair process and seeking historic grants and other grants like CPC grants to take our time and do really focused on the historic renovation there. But still inviting community input on that, input on programming that we may want to consider, because a part of the decision may be driven by programming in terms of what the community is interested in. And so the first step, I think, though, is it's the dominoes of, well, is One Pleasant going to be the place that we move to? If we know that, then we can start making additional plans. And the last thing that I'll just say is, in the short run, having the town hall still there, including the annex, does provide us some swing space. So for example, when we're renovating 135 King Street, assuming that proposal successfully passes, our police detectives are already there right now, using that as interview space, and where they work part of, we're already licensing that space as we speak right now. We wanted to do a trial run before, we went further. And so, we will need to move them up. So we would likely move them into the town hall as construction is going 35 King Street. So that space can help us manage some of the movement, including of other offices like the police, as we move forward with these projects. But I did want to open it to my select board members if they wanted to add anything in about any of that. Or otherwise, open it up for questions. Yes, Bob.
Paul Kier, 39 Oak Coach Road. Just wanted to get an understanding. The 24 million was for something like 16 to 18,000 square feet. Now you're moving into 8,000 square feet. So I'm not saying you're going to put 10 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound bag, but are you taking 100% of the employees that are in the town hall and moving them down into 8,000 square feet? Would any of those employees be dispersed to other areas in town? Like we had the nurse at the senior center on occasion. We have veteran services still there on the second floor. And I'm just curious how, the auditorium part itself is probably about 5,000 square feet, I think. So how are you going from a larger space to a smaller space? I know there's a lot of efficiencies, I'm sure, that are in the new building that aren't in the old one. So I like to understand how you're going to do that.
Sure, so that's actually a great question. And when we program town hall, every program that's come through town hall for the past 3 or 4 variations of the project, the programming is still at about 7,500 square feet. There's a lot of wasted space at the current town hall with all those hallways, staircases, and the auditorium, and it doesn't really take into account the auditorium itself. It's below the auditorium, the back of the auditorium. So really the usable space that we're using today is roughly about 7,500 square feet for offices. The rest is just almost wasted space, if you will. So everyone's going to move with us. Originally, there was a thought that the nurse would just remain at Wilcott and she wouldn't have a presence at town hall. However, through all the programming, she is going to have a presence at town hall. There's plenty of space for her. And there's not anybody that's at town hall today that will be moved to another location. They'll all remain in place at any point.
Yes, Leonora Jenkins, Jerusalem Road. Is there enough space for meeting spaces at the new location?
There is, there's gonna be a primary room, which I think holds 40 plus, right? Which will be accessible from outside. It's actually along the parking side. And it'll be accessible right directly. And it's gonna be reconfigured, kind of like this room, right? So you have the chairs all will be in the back and tables, so you can reconfigure it different ways. So it'll be used for a meeting like this. It could be used for a little recital. It could be used for lots of different things. And it can be used by community groups if they need it for other kind of meetings. I don't know if it'd be big enough for a rehearsal space for the Rusty Skippers, but it'll be a lot of other things, I think. And we also have a conference space, which we don't have now, which would be, and by the way, that meeting and the conference space will be set up for modern technology. So you can have Zoom meetings and project onto, TV and all that stuff, and in a way we can't do it now. And then again, we still have the meeting space here. We have the meeting space at Wilton Commons. So, we have other places which we've made better use. And those will continue.
And the auditorium.
Yeah, would there be a permanent spot for the selectmen's meeting?
Yeah.
Like a fixed conference spot?
There's the meeting room in the building could be, select board can be wherever it wants to, obviously, but I mean, for a bigger meeting, we could still go to Wilton Commons if it was gonna be a really big event. But the room would be comparable to what we're sitting in there. Yeah. So it's a little differently shaped. It's more rectangular than square.
So the regular Tuesday.
Yeah, or Wednesday, I mean, advisory or, affordable housing, there's a lot of space.
We've grown accustomed to moving around as the need requires, including whether it's Zoom or Wilcox Commons or the auditorium, and also sharing too with others who need that space. So I think we'd probably continue to do that, and if we had a reliable space, I think that'd be great. Some committees prefer to meet virtually, just because of the nature of their own situations. But I think it does present us, right now, the selectmen select people don't have a specific space.
Leland Jenkins, Jerusalem Road, I have questions. How much will CPC contribute to this project? That's one. What are we paying for this structure at the present time? And there's gonna be 60 spaces for cars. That's what we have now. So it's just a swap. And is there also, there's something to do with thought on too. Is it possible, because the town owns this structure and owns the 13 units, is the possibility the state can come in and tell us we have to do something with it? Is that a possibility? Meaning, is it possible if we don't rent them all, they can come in and say, you must use it for something else? You'd like to. Okay. Let's get the first one. How much is CPC going to pay for this?
So CPC, we are intending to go before CPC, and the select board has to make a decision about exactly how much we want to seek, but it is eligible for funding because of the affordable housing component, right? And so even if we got not the full price, so to speak, or not as much as we could, because CPC has other demands on it. As long as we get some, then we can go back to CPC in the future if need be, for additional money. And so it would be helpful to have CPC fund some of that. The exact amount, we don't know yet. And we're still making a decision on it.
You know how much, if you know, what the funds are for that particular sector, then that would be the maximum they can give us, correct?
Yes, but we probably won't see the maximum amount from CPC funding in light of other projects before CPC, and just what realistically CPC has. In terms of their projected amounts, they project approximately 800,000 in revenues coming in year over year, depending on the real estate revenue. But so right now we're looking at 9.1 million for the purchase price.
What's that?
9.1.
Okay, that's what they have.
Yeah, and CPC. CPC, in terms of the max amount they could fund, I'd have to do some quick math, but let's assume it's approximately 2/3 of the building, then they could fund up to 2/3 of the purchase price of the building. But I don't think that's realistic. I think it's likely going to be a lower amount if they recommend anything. It's up to CPC's independent, it's up to them how much they recommend at the end of the day.
Have you thought about anybody who's gonna manage these properties?
So we've reached out to several property management companies. We've also reached out to the housing authority that runs the Cohasset Housing Authority. They're bringing the proposal before their board to see if they have an appetite to manage this property for us. But we've also been in touch with the management company that manages other affordable units in town, mainly the ones for 390 CJC, the TOD building, and there's some ancillary affordable units in town that they also manage. So we've been in touch, we're waiting for proposals from these companies, but these apartments will not be managed by the town.
And keep in mind, these apartments will generate rental income that we will use to defray the cost of property management, of repairs for both the units, and likely as well for the entire building to make the building sort of self-sustaining in terms of operating and repairs, because we'll have money coming in. And we've been discussing putting a revolving fund in place to, make the repairs and updates as need be. It's a brand new building now, but over time, we'll need something most likely, and to make sure we're being responsible as landlords too, as we will need to be. With respect to your question about the state, can the state come in and require us to do something? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Yeah. This is a restricted deed.
Right, but the owners of the business are probably needing to market on that.
Yeah. And there's 4 that are deed restricted as affordable. And then there's another 9 that we are choosing to propose as affordable, but arguably could be market rate rental units. But we're proposing affordable because we think there's a strong need from town for it, including to, yes, Mr. Chris.
Got a question about the revenue side of the apartments. I'm estimating somewhere about about $300,000 a year. At probably say $2,000 per unit, which is I think comparable to the affordable units that have on. So, are you going to have a new department, because that revenue going to go into the housing trust? Where does that revenue go? And then obviously, the company that runs that, their expenses would be offset out of that account. So the question is, where does the balance of that funding go?
So this is a question that came up at Capitol, and so one option is we create a revolving account and the money sits there for repairs, including repairs to the building or the units as need be. There's other costs associated with property management, including someone's not paying their rent, and you have to address that, and it costs money from a legal standpoint. But it's not clear exactly, and this is where once we get into it with the property manager, assuming One Pleasant Street goes through, and we can see what the rents are in terms of the return that the town will likely get. It's not clear if we'll need the entire amount of that revolving fund for maintaining the building, particularly right now where it's a brand new building. So, we would expect things not to be breaking and needing to do significant repairs, right? And so the question then is that the select board will have to think through is, do we want to leave that money to sit in there like a capital stabilization fund for that building to anticipate future repairs? Do we want to use and allocate that money for another purpose, like, for example, repairing Old Town Hall? There's some poetic justice in using the rents from New Town Hall to help restore Old Town Hall. And so I think we're not at that place yet in terms of knowing exactly how much money it will cost, what a property manager would recommend in terms of what's a responsible amount, including an amount that we should set aside as contingencies, including just for managing the units, as well as all of the sort of maintenance that we obviously want to do in terms of maintaining the building. So I think that's a little bit touch and go, but I don't know if any of my other select board members want to weigh in on that.
What's the current budget right now for the facility? So we have like Wilcott Center, we've got the library, we've got the town hall. What is the budget every year for building maintenance and facility maintenance and buildings? Because the town halls budget that you're using now for the town hall would apply to this building, right?
So there's a
So
long,
we still have those funds, plus you'd be generating another $300,000 to $400,000 on top of it.
so there's a long-term capital plan. And with that capital plan, there's a lot of the different building plus equipment maintenance, including, for example, police cars on that plan. And this is something the long-term finance committee also looked at. So year after, and that includes road paving as well and sidewalks. And so year after year, we've been at a flat $2 million. And year after year, we've had to supplement with free cash to meet the increasing costs of maintaining everything, our buildings, our police, our road paving. And so it's fair to say that we need more money, not less, in our capital stabilization fund. As I think most of us see, including school capital costs, maintaining those buildings as they age is increasingly becoming more and more expensive. And we're also in a construction environment where costs are really increasing, including cost to pave roads. So right now, the short answer is it's $2 million flat. That's what we typically do each year for capital stabilization, but we're looking at $4 million in needs that we have year after year on right now from a long-term capital plan when we account for all the different needs of all the different buildings. So having a building that actually is generating money to address repairs, if not help with needs at other buildings, is a real benefit.
But with the rental income, you're going to increase that by at least 15 to 20%.
I'm sorry, increase what by 15 to 20%?
So if you're at $2 million now facilities, you're going to add another $300,000 to $400,000 revenue on top of that.
The facilities budget is not $2 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gene was talking about the capital budget, so
The
operational, yeah, so operationally, you're talking about like regular maintenance and electricity and stuff like that. We still have to understand, again, and to be clear, our people have been through that building multiple times. They continue to go through that as the systems are installed, they'll be right up front. Remember that the historic building is not going to, we're not just gonna mothball, right? We're gonna still have to heat it. We're gonna still have to, make sure the water's running, and so there will still be costs associated with that. We don't want the pipes to break, we don't want anything else to go bad. And I think we'll figure out, we'll have a better idea as we get closer. Remember, the building's not finished yet, so it's going to be when we move in date, if everything goes well in spring. So we still have more to learn. I think what this does present, Paul, is an opportunity for revenue to actually to prepay capital. I mean, we've never had that opportunity to put money away for this building. So there's a potential for this building to be self-sustaining in a way that no other building in town is. Not just the units. I mean, we want to make sure the units are in shape. Also the first floor and the roof and the parking. And again, if it turns out it's generating more, well, there's an opportunity to do other good things. I mean,
Right, we have that experience with the Wilcott Center now. Basically, we want a brand new building. We've had very little issues with it, the usual ice machine down for 3 months, but things of that nature, a couple of issues with the roof here and there. So we'll be safe to anticipate a similar situation with the new building, right, moving forward. So the first 5 years, you're probably just gonna have a couple of small things to fix. So in the meantime, in 5 years, you're gonna generate $5 million revenue, right? So my only concern is that, we get a new town hall, but the town government is still structured as it was 50 years ago. So is there any thought into understanding that, now that we've got these facilities, this town hall being a crown jewel, right? We're gonna put up another facility on 3A if that passes, right? We've got the Wilcox Center, so I don't know that the current departments that we have are going to be strong enough moving forward unless there's something in place to help specifically guide maintenance of these facilities.
So during my very first interview, the then director of facilities pointed out to me all the challenges that he had. It was Mark Kelly. And I said to Mark, I haven't been hired yet. I said, give me a couple of years. And I said, fast forward 10 years, we're in an incredibly different place. So the team that's there is they're skilled and proactive, and they developed a team that is proactive. So I think, Paul, we're in a different place. Now, one of the things you probably don't know is that Wilkie Commons had a very significant problem with its heating system. And they have and cooling system, they have to actually go and go through that. And it turned out there was some things that were installed in there that ended up having a warranty problem many years later. And again, it wasn't the fault of any other people built the building, it's just something that happened. They learned it, and it's a more modern system. It was also more complicated. They learned it, they troubleshot it, they got it fixed, and now they understand it. Dick and his team have done that with the schools. All of the building systems, and I can go on and on about this, you don't want me to do that. So they've troubleshot it, they're making the schools work better. Not that there's not challenges. One of the things that we committed to when we took the senior centers, we need to maintain it from day one in as good a shape as possible. I think you've seen that that's been the effort. We need to do the same thing with this, so that the staff is already right in there. They're gonna absorb everything they need to, be right alongside the contractors installing it, and then understand from the systems that they're installing, how they work and what they do, because you're correct, they're gonna be very different than what we've been working with. And again, there's also the potential, I don't want to spend too far in the future. That's a pretty wide open site, right? Could the roof have solar on it? Yeah, maybe it could. Maybe we could do something with the roof. Maybe we could put solar canopies in some of the parking, right? Not so that people wag their minds about it, but to potentially have free charging for some electric vehicles. Those potentials are all down the road. And I think our team is in a much better place for that. At the same time, because I think they're nuts and bolts in the ground, but they're also I think Michelle and Echo on this, because she works with me all the time on things, that they're really very proactive. So I'm confident, and again, by the way, the select board's gonna say, Chris, make sure the team's on top of the stuff. So I'm pretty confident that that direction will continue to be proactive and on top of these things. If we're gonna move to a brand new building, I want it to look like a brand new building for as long as possible.
Yeah, I think your confidence has to be structured somehow, and I would think that some of that funding from the rental income should be specific to a team of people that respond to facilities, because everyone here has waited a long time for IT to come and help them, and a lot of people have waited for someone to come over and fix something, right? So I think that if our town is growing and we're going to be spending upwards of 25 million on new facilities, something has to change in our town to understand how to maintain these facilities. Because I know during all of those town meetings that we've had about the existing town building that nobody did anything. It's the standard comment, right? We never did any maintenance. So we obviously did get something, but that's kind of the standard mentality is, we're gonna buy another building and we're not gonna take care of it. So I just want to make sure that if we're gonna have that kind of revenue come off our rental income, I think some of it has got to be earmarked specifically for people that's specific to facilities.
Yeah, Paul, I think you bring up some excellent points. There's going to be revenue, and we want to make sure that the revenue is not kind of appropriated for other uses. You have to maintain your facilities. You have a positive cash flow on that building. Prudent policy would be that you have reserves. You have a roof that has a 15-year useful life. You have 1/15 of the value of that roof sequestered every year, so the money is available. And I think the select board is very, very much, we've spent a lot of time discussing an efficient way to fund quite a daunting number of things that the town needs. You'll also notice from this project and the others that we have really looked for a very cost-effective way we're getting a big bang for our bucks. We're not jumping on something just because it's new and shiny. We saw two opportunities and we moved very quickly. The opportunity in Pleasant Street, the opportunity on 35 King Street. And I'm quite sure that this select board is aware of that and is working to instill policies. We also have capital budget, we have advisory, we have the other committees which are also committed to this. But I think, Paul, you're raising that point is very valuable because this is something as a town. Not only must we keep our facilities appropriate and proper, we must keep the funding available to keep them that way. And I think that you'll find just by looking at the way this proposal, these two proposals and the other ones have come forward, and the very conservative way we've been able to accomplish townwide capital needs, that we would hope that this select board, and I'm sure that my fellow select board members all agree that this is a very good priority. And thank you, Paul, for bringing that up.
Sure. I said a few meetings ago, I kind of preempted our budget message, and I think we're here in a situation with a lot of our town facilities because we haven't had the money in the budget to maintain them, and we're looking at the schools now that haven't been touched since 2001, and we look at a town hall annex that was built in the mid to late 80s when the town population was 5,000 people, and now it's 8,500 people. And same with our police and fire. I don't know what the population was in 1961 or 62, but I don't think it was what it is today. And we have to allocate, I completely agree, in taking any revenue from One Pleasant Street and putting it into a maintenance fund, earmarking specific money for that building, and whether it accumulates over time. At some point in time, there's gonna be a big expense. And so we have to have reserves for maintenance for all of these buildings. And I would encourage every department head to really look at when they do their budget for FY25, to look at their maintenance line and see how much money they're putting into maintenance and upkeep of their facilities. So I completely agree that we have to put this money into maintenance and repairs.
So one word to sum all of this up, and that's stewardship.
Mhm.
And stewardship right now, if you're gonna ask for 25 million, is more valuable than 25 million on the school. Because that stewardship is gonna carry us at least 30 years.
Couple more questions. On the tax rate, we'll say have $100 million house, what will the taxes be for the town hall? And secondly, is there any magic number? Do we really have to dedicate all the units to affordable housing, or can we have half of them affordable housing?
So your first question, for a home that's assessed at $1 million, so not like when you type in your address, what pops up, which is likely more than.
Just rough.
$1 million assessment will be approximately $220 for a $10 million debt exclusion.
What about the
And
affordable?
that's at the maximum of the debt exclusion, because the way that our finance director likes to do it is to start high and then trail down. And so that includes everything at One Pleasant, including the town hall, first floor, all the affordable housing units, and all the paid parking.
What about affordability? Why can't we have half the property?
Yeah. I mean, certainly we can consider that. And that's something that the select board can talk through, if that's a approach we want to consider. A part of, I think, at least from my perspective, why affordable housing was important to maximize is because I do think it is such a significant need for many residents, including those who have grown up in Cohasset and want to keep it their home, but it's hard to do so for them. And so, you know, I think that affordable housing is a positive thing, but certainly that remains an option.
Or senior housing?
Or senior housing, yeah.
It could be both.
Yeah.
Kevin McCarthy, 155 Fair Oaks Lane. One of the virtues of where the town hall is located now is it's an activity generator that brings a lot of people in and out in activity, which is supportive of our village community and our business community in the village. So in this new location, is it as supportive of our local businesses as the existing town hall? And if you could address that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I think, Kevin, with the new town hall, not as much, but I think with the historic town hall, maybe even more. Because we can open that up to a wide variety of possibilities, open it up to the farmer's market, open it up to photography, the plays, they do the prom night there, there'll be still voting, so that's still envisioned as an essential part of Cohasset, that building on the common. You know, it may change, sans an annex, open up some green space, so I think that, you know, things being generated from new town hall, maybe focused as historic town hall, are going to be a nice drive towards the common. Still, I think it's still going to remain a very vital part of our town.
So is the new town hall closer to the village or is it further away?
It's right there.
It's right there. It's
At the bottom of Pleasant.
one Pleasant
right
Street. You
behind
walk around the
Pleasant
corner,
Center.
you're in the village, you're at the old
Right.
Dunes. I forget the name of the new place, the Blue War.
It's actually closer.
Closer.
Yeah.
Right across, Kevin, for your vintage, right across from the Strawberry Parfait.
I know where that is.
It's almost next to Pat.
Yeah.
Mr. Hellman?
Home Market Road. To Mr. McCarthy's point, that 60 parking spaces as parking that won't be used on evenings and weekends is, I think, going to give substantial benefit to the town businesses. My dog and I decided we needed some oysters, so I was walking through the parking lot on Friday night. And I was watching people standing in parking places, waving people away while their car came around. You know, we're not, it's like Fenway Park, only worse. Adding 60 parking spaces is a real and genuine benefit when people are deciding, am I gonna go down to one of these, all these great restaurants and other places we don't have? Not to be overlooked. I think, and Paul may disagree.
No, absolutely not. I was actually, Mr. Jenkins had a comment earlier. I just wanted to address it. You said, Mr. Jenkins, and I can understand where it came from, that it's a kind of an even 60 car swap or 60 parking spots swap. But actually, we're gaining the 60 spots. We're gaining one at One Pleasant and 60 more at the historical town hall. So I just wanted to just throw that out there. So we actually have 120 instead of 60.
Well, we actually have the 30 already.
30 now.
It's just
So
no
30
one
exists.
knows about.
Yeah.
I walked there Saturday morning and the village is all crazy and that parking lot's empty. And so I think, Mr. Hillman, to your point, that once we combine the 230s and have more signage, like the public parking sign, you're gonna get a lot of people, including those who probably are trying to find a spot in the town hall parking, in the existing bigger parking lot now, going over straight to town hall on weekends and nights. And so I think we can also help direct it more. Mr. Clark.
Sorry.
Pratt, King Street. This appears to be a great solution to business side of what the community needs, town hall operation. But I think the other more exciting thing is that it opens up the old historic building to a lot of great things. It can be quality of life with their commercial center, all sorts of activities. And not that anybody wants to hear again, you can appoint another town hall study committee, but if you start to put together a group of minds thinking about how to use that building, what can be done, it can be real exciting. Looking forward.
I addressed that point. Excellent point, because one of the things that we want to really make very clear, we have a historical jewel in our old town hall. And when you combine that historic jewel with the requirements of administering a modern government, they're really not very compatible. So by separating them, now we have a town hall, we can get historic grants, and we expect CPC money, they'll love to do that. We can do lots of things, we can continue the drama, we could probably expand the drama. There'd be opportunities for musical concerts by the Rusty Scuppers and things like that. Scuppers. They wouldn't let me in with my saxophone, and that was a good move, by the way. Um,
Town hall too.
But this really gets us where we want on, and I'm very excited, as you can tell. Because by separating our historic jewel from the day-to-day, we allow a lot of opportunities, a lot of fundraising opportunities, a lot of very, very interesting uses. So that's one of the big benefits. And there'll be more parking next year.
And the other thing is it gives the town an opportunity to join in with churches that have been upgrading their facilities on the farm, and I think really gives a nod to the historic district, which is an exciting thing.
Susan Sardino, 100 Pond Street. I'm intrigued, very intrigued by the idea. And I'm especially interested in how to possibly address the 14 or whatever numbers decided on affordable units. Is there a way, sure how to phrase this, to make this become such that it's the town managing this and not have it go over to the state? Because Elm Street, the housing authority is really state owned. And therefore state mandated and controlled and so on and so on. Served on the housing authority for 15 years, and I know what it's like trying to deal with what the state requirements are. I don't see that as being what we want this to be here. I don't see that. So I'm trying to think, and I don't know what the answers are, but a way to structure the housing portion of this, again, whatever number is decided, structured in a way that the town can make decisions as to how those units are allocated, whether they're going to be for senior housing, whether they're going to be for staff employees, anyone who's a town employee, whatever the decisions are, so that it can be structured that way. Because if it goes over to what is on Elm Street, it's taken over by the state. When someone applies, they could be from Springfield or the Cape or anywhere. And that's not serving our local needs that I think are important to the community. So I'm just asking that as a question to think about how we can structure it.
It won't be structured for that. It will not be structured as part of the housing. For a lot of those reasons, I'm very familiar with those issues, and no. And nor is the state, because we make them affordable, nor does the state to then come in and start managing it. We keep local control.
So right now, the town is proposing to buy the units. And do hire a property manager who will help us through the different options that may exist. We've spoken with our lawyers already about how to effectuate a local preference program, which is along the lines of what I believe you're alluding to, which I think can be done, but we'll likely need the help of that property manager to help us execute that. And to the extent, and this is what these forms are for, people have feedback, including whether it's senior housing or other preferences that people have, then that's something certainly we consider follow up on. And we have been talking with the Cohasset Housing Authority too to get their feedback as well.
Second question, you mentioned the 60 parking spaces. How many of those, though, are going to be allocated to the units?
Yeah, certain of those will be allocated towards the units.
So will each unit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that separate from
I'm
what
sorry,
they?
that's-
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
So it's getting 60 free and clear of whatever the housing portion is.
Yes, there's extra in back.
Okay. Just want to clear that up.
Having apartments above the town hall, does that affect insurance liability?
Yes, yes, yes. Answer yes. It does. So we're working with our insurance company to figure out exactly what that expense will be. But once again, all these 13 units, all the rental income that we get is going to be offset by the additional insurance we need, maintenance and everything else. So it's almost like a little perfect recipe that we have to pull together. And we're working on that to be able to present it all to you. in due time.
I just want to say another thing, all this work you've done, on these proposals that are coming, it's Herculean and it's unbelievable, and the staff, Chris's office and Jeff's done like that. But I know you know this, but there's a lot of citizens that can help you with this thing, so don't forget us as we go along, dealing with some of these issues.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. We'll put you at the top of the list.
Yeah. We're gonna work.
Yes.
We're gonna work it together. Oh, he is a great trip. Oh, yeah.
Mike Sardina, 100 Pond Street. I'm just curious, you said earlier that the 9.1 million was basically a move-in condition.
Yes.
So is this developer retrofitting everything for your needs? And do you have a space planner and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we had our original space plan that was done for the last iteration of the town hall. So we had all that mapped out. He does have his office space. We've been working with his architect to make sure that we're not modifying his building. Because part of prevailing wage and procurement laws is we don't have that ability to really change his original intent of the building. So the offices that he has built out is something we have to work within. We've been working with his engineer to make sure that it suits our needs. Our IT department has been working alongside the owner to make sure that all the IT infrastructure is going to be adequate for us. The building inspector has been inspecting right along the way to make sure that it's going to work for town hall. So everyone's working in conjunction with one another to make sure that everything that is done in the best interest of the town taking the building.
So it's all gonna be, in one way, it'll be all unified, even though carpet color, paint color, whatever, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a very long building. You have multiple entrances into the public spaces.
So there's the main entrance, in the front of the building. There's also a side entrance that we would consider almost like your second main entrance. So those are the two entry points. Right now, if you drive by the building, you'll see several exterior doors.
Yeah.
A lot of those are gonna be blocked off. So you can't access from the outside. And some of them are gonna be replaced with windows and some of them are just gonna be taken out completely. We will have two different forms of egress because they do have to have an egress form for the units upstairs to be able to get outside. And there'll also be a back entryway for the elevator access to the second and third floors. But as you see it today, there's doors everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And that was originally designed because there were individual offices that would be rented not to one entity. But because we're one entity, they'll block off those doors so you can't enter.
What does he do with electric service, HVAC systems, all that stuff for individual offices versus the whole 8,000 square feet?
Yep, so the HVA system, I believe they're working on that now, and it's a heat pump system, and there are gonna be several units throughout. We're not changing anything that he had originally designed because it does work for us as a whole, because we do have so many individual offices, even though we're one ownership, we still have all those individual offices that need the heating and AC.
Are you going to a bigger office?
I am in the office. I must be definitely. That's fine.
So, I'd like to speak on behalf of myself as one of the sewer commissioners. So if I hear you correctly, the building, which is under the home, has gone through all of the planning board and to all the different departments to pay the fees and go through the inspection process and getting the building completed. Is that going to still happen?
That is still happening.
Okay, because there is a large sum of money that is due the sewer department for village and fees, which we're wondering if that's going to be paid by the developer and then the town buys the building.
So we recently were just given a notice by, I guess, the sewer commission's working with the attorney of the developer. We recently just saw the number of EDUs that are needed by the sewer commission. And the only question I think that's outstanding today is because they no longer have that restaurant use and it's all offices. I believe that there's some additional discussions to be had with the sewer commission. But the,
50-seat restaurant that was proposed on the first floor, and all the EDUs were calculated for the rest of the building.
yeah, so I
Now, we would have to understand, how many restroom facilities are gonna be now on the first floor, and calculate that versus the 50 seat restaurant.
So the way I understand it is the developer, working through his attorney, is gonna come back to the sewer commission.
Okay.
And re-engage in that process, but it's my understanding the developer is still paying for those fees.
Ms. Jenkins?
Yes, as a water commissioner, is he gonna be also working with the water commission, because we send him letters and there is no current water hook up there. Because he has not paid the fee. And we haven't heard a word from anyone about anything.
We'll take every judgment. We know we've been in contact about sewer. I haven't heard about water.
Yeah, because they still owe us new one.
So, knowing that we're engaged in this process, if you can share that information with us so we can, you know, discuss it with him, that'd be great.
Just contact Brenda down at the water department. She'll give you the information.
Okay, thank you.
She'll give you copies of the letter you sent.
Excellent.
All right. Any other unpaid bills?
Now's the time.
Bring them on. Questions? Yes.
I just want to say thank you for being good stewards of our money for the town. It was gonna be proposed for a lot of money for the town hall renovation. I know there were multiple studies that were done, a lot of money went into those studies. Unfortunately, they didn't pan out. I think it's a good solution. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sardina. I think that a heck of a lot goes to Michelle, Chris, town staff. I mean, this is really kind of manna from heaven. It just came together beautifully. And, you know, to me personally, I'm not speaking to the board, it's kind of a once in a lifetime, and that's the potential to be a multi-generational project that, if successful, is going to serve us all for years to come. It's going to preserve town hall. It's going to get our police and fire where they have to be. So we can just, you know, I'm knocking on wood. And thank you for saying that.
And I would add that you noticed when you asked questions, you got answers, which show that there's been a lot of thought. It's also very clear the select board has listened to the will of the voters as expressed at the town meeting and followed that. And the next step is to, if people here or at home support this, it's going to be very important that the correct information gets out. And as you've noticed tonight, when you hear the correct information, questions have been answered. We've made sure that Justin has all this information on the town website. If you find that there's information that would be helpful that isn't on there, we'll get it on there right away. But we are going to have to, somebody tells me to shut up now. We are going to have to get the town behind this. And thank all of you for coming here.
One quick question, it's just kind of a maintenance question for you. Are you going to sunset the existing town hall building committee? And then what is the balance left in that account? I think it's about $300,000 to $500,000. Where is that going to be allocated?
Yeah, so as to the existing.
I'm in a meeting.
As to the existing town hall building committee, that is, and I have to look back at the charge, because oftentimes charges have a time limited period to see if it's even still in existence at this point. I would assume maybe it is, but I'm not totally sure. So I'd have to look back at it. I would note that there are likely to be certain members of the committee that will join other committees in equally valuable capacities for the town. And so I think what the select board is probably going to need to consider is, if we're going to do some version of the town hall building committee or a new committee, what is the charge then? And who wants to join that? To Mr. Pratt's earlier point, are there people who want to join to help envision what future programming and that new town, that the future of the existing town hall looks like? And so I think that's the most likely trajectory of where we're headed, but you know, the select board needs to discuss that.
So what about the funds that are still allocated?
Oh.
That's
So this, there was money that was borrowed for an earlier phase of the project. So most of this is kind of wash out, that we're trying to find out what the net is. And if there's some money netted, I think the goal will be to put it towards making some of the initial engineering work or repairs at their start building.
Was the existing town hall?
Yeah, the existing,
This-
but it's gonna be pretty much a wash.
Because that's what town meeting appropriated that money for, was for the existing town hall, so that's what we would use, to the extent that. Are there any questions from our virtual audience, if anyone? Any other questions? Any other comments from my fellow select board members? All right, well, thank you all for attending, we appreciate it, feel free to reach out with any.
You have to. We have to adjourn.
Yes.
Motion to
Yes.
adjourn. Second.
All those in favor? please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye.